Meanwhile, here with their take on an Italian holiday staple are James Beard Award winner, author, and chef at Chicago's Michelin star restaurant, Spiaggia, Tony Mantuano, and his beautiful wife and co-author, Kathy Mantuano. Thank you so much for joining us, you guys.
Thanks, man.
It's really an honor to have you here.
Thrilled to be here. I mean, it's not a holiday without bacala.
Yes,
right?
and we're going to get to this bacala in just a minute. Well, at least for us from the Mediterranean, it's not,
yes,
is
the
it?
Mediterranean
Before
countries.
we start showing everyone how to make this amazing traditional Italian Christmas dish, I'd like to mention that there is someone who's very famous, who is one of our former presidents, who is a huge fan of your restaurant and your cooking. Would you care to share?
Yeah, it's a guy named Barack Obama and his lovely wife, Michelle.
Gosh.
And we welcomed them the night, not the actual night that they won, but the first Saturday night that after the Tuesday election, and they dined with us, and it was like the most magical moment in the restaurant. And you know, people, I mean, he eats with everyone else, like no private room, and
really,
it's just it was a surprise, and it was great. And so we've known them for a while because they
love the restaurant.
They love the restaurant, and that was their date night restaurant.
Do you think they need something like this?
They would definitely something
love
like this. They would love this.
This is on pretty much every Italian traditional Christmas menu, correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about bacala.
Well, look how strange this is. I mean, this is like a salty, sort of hard piece of fish.
Doesn't look too good, I gotta be honest, Chef.
It's actually delicious if you love salt. But, you know, think about it. Here's a dish, an ingredient used in every Mediterranean country, this fish, right? Yeah. It doesn't swim in the Mediterranean.
Isn't that crazy? It's not even from the Mediterranean. In every Mediterranean country, it is like one of their classic dishes.
How can that be?
How can that be? Do you know?
So it comes from Northern Europe, but they would do this up there because this is a fish that is in the North Atlantic. So they would cure it, and then they would bring it down to the south, and they would say, "Hey, I got a piece of fish. Can I trade you for that bottle of wine? Maybe a piece of terracotta, maybe
some feta and some olives."
Maybe, right. Exactly.
There was the barter system.
And it worked. And now, because there wasn't refrigeration in those days, so now it's become a real tradition to serve this, especially during the holidays.
Right,
during Christmas.
exactly. Okay, so we have to prepare our salt cod. What do we do first?
Well, here's the thing. It's salted because it's preservation. So you need to soak it for at least 2 or 3 days. And even that in cold water in the icebox, changing the water like twice a day or so. But it comes back beautifully, and it's really not even raw anymore. It's sort of cured with all that salt.
So now we get started, and we start with some garlic and olive oil, and we saute some peppers, correct?
Yeah, and you know, like, the peppers need to cook for a while. I even would suggest covering them so they steam and they get a little bit of, you know, they cook a little bit faster.
Okay.
But these are ingredients from Calabria. I mean, there's even like a dish that's just potatoes and peppers. That's so delicious. Yeah. But the addition of bacala, and what we do is we saute the peppers separately, and then we take a baking dish like this. Okay. And then we take these really thin, well, actually, the golden elixir of Italy and Greece and Spain. This is extra virgin olive oil from Tuscany.
Nice.
And, you know, like we always like to use the freshest olive oil that we can get, so we try to look on the bottle that says, you know, this was when it was harvested or best if used.
That's very important, by the way. A lot of people don't know that.
No, it's not like wine. Doesn't get better.
Yep, exactly. So then you slice them very thin with a mandolin.
Yep.
Is that because you want them to be crispy like a potato chip?
Yeah, we want them to be crispy. We don't want them to be raw. Right. And just also a little bit creamy in the middle too, you know. Okay. So, and what happens is they cook really nicely this way. If you slice them thin enough, there's the crispy edges, the creamy middle. Oh, yummy! And then the fish. Then we season it with some of this beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Oregano, that is not quite dried all the way, but you know, normally I love fresh herbs, but there's just something about dried oregano and really good dried oregano that adds a flavor that reminds me of my grandmother.
Yeah, my grandma too. It's very pungent.
And speaking of your grandmother, Chef, this recipe has got a special place in your heart because it kind of reminds you of her. Is that right?
Every time I make it, I think of her. Her and my grandfather had a grocery store in Wisconsin called the Mantuano Food Shop, and they would grow things in their garden at home and have them for sale in the store. I don't know if we have a picture of my grandfather.
We do. Your grandfather's sharp.
He was rocking that hat.
I
know.
For sure.
There he goes.
Oh, gosh, I love that. Look at your grandma. She's great.
So I think about holidays. It was always with them. And so the food was always homemade pasta like that. Thank you, and
look
and
at
bacala. And this is
Oh, my
Grandma and
goodness.
Grandpa and my mom, and I think I might be standing on my mom's lap in the back there.
Oh, how cute is that?
Super fun.
And now there you are with your little boy.
So this is our son, Kathy. Look at
Kathy,
your
look
son.
at your
Look at
little
your son,
boy.
Carlo. So he was really super little at the time, and we were making pizza dough. Yeah. And now he's 26 years old, and he lives in New York.
No. And that happened so fast, I bet.
It was crazy.
No, Kathy. How did we let this happen?
Yes, right.
How long do the peppers have to cook, Kathy?
Well, you can saute them about 15 minutes and then cover them for 10.
Okay. Okay. Just so they're soft inside.
Exactly.
And I know we were having a discussion, Tony and I, earlier, that much like my Greek relatives, all of Tony's Italian relatives would say the same thing. How long do you have to cook it for? How long, Tony?
If you have to know how long to cook it, then you shouldn't be cooking at all.
And they all say it. How long do you have to cook it for? Until it's done. I'm like,
And if you have to know, which is a great title for your new cookbook or mine, one of the two.
right, one of the two. Soon, coming to a bookstore near you, either Tony or me.
So a little bit more oregano. I put the fish down. I want the fish to be sort of protected by the peppers. So you got to be careful, like with the salt. But if you've tasted it, you know where it's
Okay,
at.
you could use a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Little pepper.
So then we put the peppers on top.
Yep. And then the
Lemon zest.
lemon and a little bit of parsley. And then what we
Layer
do
these
is we
guys.
do the peppers to sort of protect the fish as it cooks. And look at sort of Christmassy, isn't it?
It really
like
is.
red and
You got the
green.
green, a little bit of white in
Yes.
there. I mean,
How long does this go in the oven?
This goes in for about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes.
20 minutes.
And,
All right, Kathy, you want to help us out?
Sure.
Let me give you that.
I'll take the...
This is really like a proper Mediterranean kitchen. Everyone's in here
that's
together.
right. Everybody's helping out.
Yeah.
You gotta perfect the elbow.
There we go.
Look at that, though.
Look at that.
It's delicious.
Oh,
It's delicious.
my goodness. All
Well
right.
done, well done,
Okay,
team.
go ahead, serve it up,
Yeah,
Tony.
you guys serve it up, and I'm going to tell everybody at home the full recipe is available on hallmarkchannel.com. And for more delicious recipes by Chef Tony, check out the Spiaggia cookbook.